Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wealth Edit Wednesday. We have one of our favorite people on today. Her name is Helen Owen, and she has so much insight and just practical financial habits. So we like to have her on and sit at her feet as much as we possibly can. But what we mainly are talking about today is being unstuck. So if you know you're the type of person that needs to be on a budget or get things in order and your whole life is cluttered, which happens when you have tiny children and it's hard to unstick from that, then Helen has so much insight here. So we're so grateful. So what would you say is the hardest part about getting on a budget?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the word unstuck, because that's the title of this talk of mine. And I've done this before. And actually, you know, in studying for this, which I take this time with y'all very seriously, I do look up past notes and study. Most of what I'm trying to tell your group is said and resaid just in different ways. So being stuck in something usually comes from fear or apprehension. So, right, that makes sense. So, you know, usually I talk in terms of budgets, but I'm going to also talk in terms of just life today, because money flows out and from your life. So you've got to get unstuck in a lot of different ways. But the first thing in getting unstuck from anything is to change your mental attitude. It's not a list of, it's not the budgets I've sent out. It's not the long-term budgets. Those are important because they give you the how-tos. But it's the mental of stopping and saying, and believe me, I've had to do this in my life. I'm older than y'all. And I wish that I had somebody like me kicking me around the block, because I just finally had to just face it myself and figure it out. But I'm telling you that you have to look in the mirror and go, wait a minute, if a certain part of my life's not working out, finances being a huge part, which I love to talk about, and y'all know that, but relationships, where you live, how you live, who you're friends with, all those things that pile in to make your life better and good, you have to actually look at it and decide, well, I'm doing a great job at this part, but this part needs change. And so I mentally am going to face the tiger, which we talked about last time, because nobody is going to advocate for you more than you will advocate for you. Does that make sense?
That's a good word. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I mean is, so I will start from money. So a lot of my life, I've told you, in my 30s and 40s, I was so mixed up that a lot of times I let the things that I wanted get in the way of the things that I had. And that is a huge statement. You ought to print it on your brain. Don't let the things you want get in the way of the things you have. So I spent a lot of that time looking to my right, looking to my left, because I live in a very affluent place. And like I talk to y'all all the time about my friends, my great friends that are all wealthy, literally all of them in my lunch group, quote. And I just learn so much from them all the time. They crack me up, and they I think they learn a lot from me too. But I have had to look at my life and say, wait a minute, I'm looking at someone who has a gigantic trust fund. I'm not going to have the same house she has. I'm not going to have the same spending money. I will have to find different solutions. I do have to look at what I have, 10 cents, and I can only spend 9 cents. That's where you start this whole thing. That's the whole mental start. And once you get there, if you need help, there are plenty of people who can help. I'm here. I see people at my house all the time, or I'll video chat, anything. But just to start looking at, well, let's just be honest here. Who am I? What do I have in the bank? What do I have to do every month? What are my have-tos, my wants, and my absolutes I can get rid of? Mm-hmm. That's how you start.
And sometimes too, when you're making a decision, this is what we try to tell our people in our private practice, Somerset, if you want to move into a different neighborhood or a nicer home or a bigger home, it's like, it's not just the cost of the home that is part of it. It's the whole lifestyle that goes with it. It's the fact that your lawn care is going to go up. People are going to charge you probably double for a drywall patch because you live in a certain zip code. All that stuff is real. I mean, that is, it is, the cost of living goes up. So I think that's also another way that sometimes people get in a bad spot is they think, oh, I can afford that house, and they're making that decision in a vacuum, where really it's the lifestyle that then creeps up and they're spending 11 cents when they only have 10, and that kind of thing. What do you think about that?
No, that's true. In fact, Dickie and I, you've heard our story, and sometime I'll tell it again because it's worth repeating, but we're those people who came from nice families. We were educated. We started out, we both worked up, Dickie through corporate America, me selling real estate for 23 years, and we always wanted a lake house. We always wanted a lake house, but there were other things. I had children in private colleges. They went to medical school and law school. I had a nice house that we've renovated 4 times in Crestline, and that's a whole nother segment of how crazy I have been. But we never could. Our great friend who has a wonderful lake house just finally said, y'all take the key. You just use it anytime because you can afford to buy the lake house. But I promise you, you cannot afford to do the boats, the gas, the sea-doo sinking, the squirrel gets in it. So yes, exactly what you're saying. But you know what? I want to look at my notes because the biggest part of this is to be authentic. And I have to tell you, I wasted so many years of my life where everybody thought I was authentic because I'm funny and I can get out there and do that part. But I was the biggest fake. And I've told y'all so much. I regret so much that I wasn't brave, that I didn't stand up and say, wait a minute, I've got 8 cents. And so that's what I'm going to have. My family's going to live and use 8 cents. Now, most of my friends had 45 cents and they lived a whole different life, but they still loved me. I just never could see that. So I did learn to live on my 8 cents. That's why I'm here talking to y'all today. I'm great at that. It just never felt right until I got my act together, really in my late 40s, and started thinking, wait a minute, I have got to own this. This is who we are. We have a great family. We don't have as much money as other people, but we're in the top of the world. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Do some research on that. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said last week, and I've thought about this a lot, you may have to switch jobs. You may have to move to a smaller place. You might have to get a second job, which actually, if you think about it, your second job might be the job that propels you into the real job. Mm-hmm. You just don't know, but you've got to look at what is real here, because if you're stuck, only you can unstuck you.
And would you say that, I know you said, so it happened to you kind of in your late 40s where you're like, okay, I need to get this under control and be authentic and true to who we really are and be content with what I have. Did you have a mentor or somebody that kind of walked you through that? Or was it all just kind of you being like, I'm gonna figure this out?
Well, I knew that I was wrong. That's the first thing. I knew I was wrong. I had so much. Like I've told you my story about my wealthy friend that came to me and said, you think because I have boats, planes, trains, cars, literally all of that, that my life is better than yours. And what you don't know is I'm looking at you going, you've got the life I want. I'm divorced. My children are all in therapy because of it. And I had this other life where we were together, and Dickie and I were in the ditch together, raising children and throwing bombs out at the world together. So that really, in fact, she came to me about a week ago and said, was I the wealthy person in your talk? And I said, yes, you are. And I continue to talk about you. But anyway, she went, I knew it was me. I knew it was me. I feel good about it. But no, yeah, I was such a wuss, a wimp. I'm so mad at myself because I'm not a wimpy person. You can tell that. But I was so just, wait a minute, I don't have what they have, so I'm going to feel bad about myself until my daughter moved to Seattle to do her medical residency, and Seattle, and it was open-ended. And I went into the nut farm, and I got with one of my Bible study teachers who's also a counselor, and she whipped me alive. In fact, a lot of people can't take her counseling because she's so tough, but I knew I needed it, and she absolutely whipped me up. She said I was the most self-centered, self-absorbed person she'd ever met, and even though she cared for me, I needed to get my act together. And I mean, it was like, wow, I'm getting whipped here. But she was right. So that's the person that got my attention.
Yeah.
And buddy, she was tough.
Yeah. And it's
So I hope I'm being tough enough to y'all without hurting your feelings to say, you got to get it together. You only have one life. You got to own it. You got to be braver than you're being if you're in this place of being stuck.
Mm-hmm. And not to get off on a tangent, because I know I want to keep going because I know you have some amazing points, but as you're talking, I keep thinking about like in parenting as well, like how important it is to start this at an early age with our children, and just, how much we can, like, that discontent, like how much we can save them from that if we start, instilling these things and being tough. I mean, it's hard to be tough about these things because I'm raising 2 teenage girls, and it's just our sinful nature coming out at its best. It's just ingrained in us, and you have to have somebody that's keeping you focused on the right things. So,
well, I'll whip y'all into shape anytime. Just
come on. We need
That's why
it.
we keep having you back.
That's
we
right.
need it. We need it constant.
Just
Okay,
about every time I talk to anybody, I've learned to say, if you're looking to the right or the left, you're in dangerous territory. And I'm not just kidding in the word dangerous, because it can take your focus off of what is important, your spiritual life, your family, how you're earning or working. And I mean, I don't know. I am somebody that doesn't want to be stuck. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the first thing. Just, you gotta just look at your life and go, wait a minute, are these areas wrong? And especially money. I'm going to fix this. And sometimes it's very hard to take that first step, so you might need to get some help.
Well, and you made a good point when we were talking earlier about how you said before getting your finances in order it's about more than just your finances. How is decluttering kind of your life? What kind of relationship is that to having a budget?
Well, it's key to everything, right? I mean, if you look at your life, you're going to, parts of your life, relationships, your money, your job, your friends, all kinds of things. You're going to look and say, what of those are a must? I was talking about budgets. What in my life do I have to spend money on? And that would be rent, daycare, power, those kind of things that are on the budget sheets that I sent y'all. You'll see those are the imperatives. Then there's a second category. Well, what are the things that I'd like to do if I have some extra? And if I don't have the extra, guess what? You don't get to do them. So stop whining about it, because I whined about it for years. I mean, so what? The third thing is, these things are bad for me. I can't afford them. This relationship is bad. I feel bad when I'm with this friend, blah, blah, blah. And you got to cut them out. And that is tough. That's making a real change in your life. But you will see it comes back to really, it's like living clean. Do you know what that means? Living clean is such a better way than living dirty, and meaning cluttered, confused. It's just to clear it out and look clearly at yourself, because actually yourself's going to end up being the biggest problem of your problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Y'all are all just like,
well, no, I'm just thinking about like
receiving it.
I know. I feel like I'm definitely receiving it. So, okay, so you're getting cleaned up. You've mentioned that you often ask people to just write down everything that they spend. So what do you do once you've written it down? Is it, I know we've talked about this before, try to like go a few weeks without spending anything other than like what you have to spend?
I think you do 1 week. So you sit down,
Okay.
you go, you know what? I don't know where my money is. I don't know what I'm doing here. I thought I had $20 extra this week. I got nothing. So I'm going to take a notebook for just 7 days. That's all I'm saying, 7 days. And you write down every single thing that you spend, and not necessarily try to spend better. You just, so that you're living your regular life. And I'm talking about if you spend $1 for a cup of coffee, write it down on Monday, everything, Tuesday, add it all up and look at it. And you've got to include in there the must bills, because we all have to live, and you have to have power, you have to have water. And then look at you got to get honest. Okay, here's a great example. I hope you can see the analogy. Last weekend, I literally walked through my house. I'm a clean freak. I hate clutter. I have nothing. I mean, I'm a minimalist at heart. And last weekend, I thought, I am so tired of my underwear drawer. So, and I've known this for like 6 months, that half of the camisoles and bras and underwear and all that stuff didn't fit me anymore. Either I was fatter or thinner or never fit or whatever. So I finally just got the guts up and said, just do it. So I went in, I emptied 2 of these huge drawers on my bed. So there's no going back. And I threw out half of it. Not threw out. I gave to charity half of it, and the things that were pathetic, you know, threadbare, which of course I had, I threw away. I put it back in my drawer. Half of my drawers are empty. That's the philosophy. But you know what? It took me about a half a year to actually do it. I'd been looking in that drawer going, this is pathetic. I can't wear half of this. I don't. But it just took doing it. That's what I'm trying to, that's my biggest thing today, is just get some guts and do it. If you're overspending, well, figure it out. You're not a dummy. If you need me to help you, come.
That's it. My mom is on this call, so I'm going to pick on her. And she told me this story that her dad delivered every baby in Bainbridge, Georgia for years and years and years. And she said, Daddy, I'm scared of having a baby. And he said, well, there's people a lot dumber than you that have had a baby. And it's just true. You know, it's like there's people that are a lot not as smart as people on this call, but have figured out how to be on a budget. And that's just what we need to hear. Would you agree?
I don't even think, Lauren, it has to do with smarts anymore. I used to think, well, it's the smart people. But there again, my lunch group, it's a bunch of Vanderbilt, you know, brown educated people. And there's a caveat to this. They're all wealthy, so it doesn't really matter. You know, like if they overspend somewhere, it doesn't matter if you have a boatload of millions in the bank. But I'm saying they still ask me questions about uncluttering and these people are really smart. It mostly has to do with you looking at yourself and going, what's the truth here? Who am I? What am I living? What am I spending? Is my relationship good? Am I trying to live in a house I can't afford? Well, guess what? I was a realtor. Sell it. Move. Just get tough. Remember I told y'all a long time ago that the words, oh, I can't afford that, are so powerful, and nobody ever says it. And I wish I had known how great those words were. To say, y'all, I can't go, I can't afford it. It's just empowering. It is empowering.
And I think too, even if you are overfunded, which some of us on this call are, it's at some point, and we go through this book called Your Money or Your Life. That's what some of us are going through in the Wealth Edit right now. And it's like, it just doesn't satisfy. You know what I mean? So like, you're still cluttered and it's still not great. Even if you have more money than, you know, the Lord himself, you're just not going to feel good about that. And so if you do have that much money, then you can actually think about, and this is another thing we talk about all the time here, is like, where are you going to find the most joy or enjoyment in spending your wealth? You know, is it giving it away? Is it, I don't know what it could be. I mean, that's pretty personal, but you know, just kind of whittling down to things that you actually care about versus, being like, oh, Susie Sue has one and I need one too because she seems like she's got it together. It just doesn't matter,
Oh, I hate that. When you say that, that was me up until I want a Lexus station wagon because I was such a whiner. Oh, I can't stand it.
Picture me like
I
that.
can't either.
I look at myself and go, oh, ooh. And I hate whiners. I mean, my children will tell you, I can't stand a whiner. And I was a whiner. I didn't whine out loud. I thought a lot of whining things. But I wrote a note here, and this is so true. Once you get your act together, which you can, that's behaviors are great because you can change them. So I had this lady kick my rear end around the block for about a year, and I finally got it and changed. But once she kept pummeling with, it's not just about you, Helen. Yes, you've got some work to do, and you've got to clear out and figure out who you are. But then turn around and be kind to someone else. Mm-hmm. And that's huge. And I honestly feel like if you find someone, I love 2 words. Are they genuine and are they kind? Because if they're those 2 things, they're valuable. Being kind. So I started, this is weird, but this is practical. So I started going, okay, well, how do I do that other than, hey, how you doing or whatever? And I thought, I'm a terrible cook and I don't care, so don't try to fix me. I don't care that I'm a terrible cook, but I love flowers. So I started going to Publix and spending $10 on a bunch of flowers and wrap a ribbon around, and I'd just take them to a friend and leave it at their doorstep. They didn't even have to be having a bad thing. I just go, oh, I was thinking about you. Y'all wouldn't believe what those $10 bunches of flowers did for my friends. And actually, I still do that some. I'll just think about somebody and think, well, I'm going to go do some flowers. That's just turning around, stopping looking at yourself all the time and looking outward.
That is, I feel a lot of freedom because I'm a terrible cook too. And everyone's like, oh, can I? And I feel myself saying, can I bring you something to eat? And I'm thinking, you really don't want anything that I have to cook. I should just bring flowers. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, that's
instead.
a great idea. And Helen,
just, my husband's always brought me flowers a lot and they're my favorite thing. But I've realized after I started taking these $10 bunches of flowers, lots of people never get flowers. They don't have anyone bringing them flowers.
That's right.
So it's just moving away from yourself. And so what does that come back to? It's just all about self-centeredness. I mean, if you're overspending because you're not gutsy enough or sharp enough to get it together. Well, if you're not, call me because I'm going to whip you.
Yeah. And Helen, I think that I think about this a lot is, there's been things in my life that I've put off that I shouldn't have, just like you're saying. I mean, we all have those areas in our lives, but what I've always found is there's that internal shame talk as well. Cause you're like, I know I'm supposed to be getting this together and I'm not. And I can say just through the journey of losing my husband, having to take over control of my finances in a different way than I would have ever if my husband was still alive. For a while there was this time where it just hung out as just this dark cloud over my head. And it was I knew I needed to tackle it, but I really wasn't sure. And I didn't feel like I had the mental space to do it. But like you said, once I faced the tiger, it was okay, we've got to get this under control. What I found was having that dark cloud over your head is a lot of weight, and it takes a lot more of your attention than you'll ever realize until it's gone. Mm-hmm. And once it was gone, I didn't have that shame. I mean, but I also was able to focus on other people because it freed up that mental space. It's when you're not always fighting that, gosh, I should be doing this. You just don't even realize how much space that takes up in your head where you're not able to focus on other people.
But also, I don't want to sound like a goody-goody and say I was not filled with shame. I was hacked off that I didn't have the Lexus station wagon and I had the Chevy. Don't think I was kind and generous until I got my act together. I was looking at my lunch group who half the people have a plane. Yeah. And I was going, well, I want a plane. And I would rail at God and rail at Dickie and rail at myself. And I want a plane. And it's just so stupid. And I look back and think, well, good, Helen. you wasted probably 15 years of your life. And there's a caveat again. I didn't speak it as much as I thought it. Just as dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say this to people, they'll go, no, I didn't get that from you. And I have said, thank you, Lord, that I wasn't just, I was thinking it. But I wasn't being kind and generous like you, Emily, and going, I feel ashamed.
Well, I was. But hey, look, we all come at it from different angles, okay? I was feeling sorry for myself, which is just as bad. So it's kind of the same thing, just from a different angle. I was feeling sorry for myself, and I didn't want to do it, and I knew I had to.
You have to. If you're spending 10 cents and you've only got 8 cents, you have to.
Well, I didn't know how much I had. That was the worst problem. You know, like I didn't even know what I was supposed to be spending. So I just always was like, I know I need to take care of this. I know I need to take care of this. I know I need
your underwear drawer. It's your underwear drawer.
Same thing. Same as the underwear drawer. Yeah. So that was like where I got caught up, and that was like my block. But you know, once I figured it out, I was like, dadgum, this is like just life-giving. Right. There's so much freedom and empowerment, and like being like, okay. I mean, it's not great, but at least I know what it is now and what I need to do.
And actually being thankful for what, you know, in some of my past talks, I've told y'all, listen, this is great to hear it from me because I did it all wrong. But at this point in my life, a lot of times I'll sit down and think, I'm going to write a list of the cons in my life and the pros. And I'm talking about the pros being, can you see? Can you go to the dentist? I'm not talking about my new car in the driveway. I'm talking about real things that matter in your life, and then there are the cons. Do that exercise along with writing down what you're spending. Because if you're honest, you probably have a whole lot more than you ever think about, because all I was thinking about is what I didn't have. Mm-hmm. Bad. I'm like, bad. So.
Well, I will say, we say this every time you come on, but Helen means it when she says that she'll meet with you. So if you want her number, you send us a message and we will send it to you. She met with me and it was life-changing, and there's still so much work to be done. But she really is so good at speaking truth where you need to hear it, and kind of unsticking you, because we do get unstuck, and sometimes it does take that sort of, you know, there's a reason why inertia is a law, and sometimes it takes that outside force just kind of getting you off your little path that you're on to shake you up.
You need a kick in the pants. You need a kick in the rear, and it's not easy. I actually sent a friend of mine to this lady that was helping me. She was having a terrible problem in her family, and she called me and said, I can't take it. She's too tough. She's too hard. And I said, well, then good for you. You find somebody sweeter. I knew I needed to be kicked. Mm-hmm. So I kept going back, and I changed. So I'm happy to kick anyone.
Well, okay. Yeah. We're right at 10:28. So does anybody have any questions? You can.
I love what Catherine put in the comments. Is it self-centered if your sweet husband brings you flowers that are too expensive for your budget and then you worry about it?
That's a great question. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother segment. No, that's
we're gonna get you. We're gonna be like, next section. We're gonna be like how to talk to your spouse about this if you've got a spouse.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's big. And talk to your children. Just giving you those words. There's some great words.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. Helen, thank you so much. We just enjoy our time with you. We always laugh, and it is good for our soul. Even while you're kicking us, we're laughing.
I love being here because I'm just telling you the truth about the experience. I'll end with this. Sometimes life's greatest challenges become your pulpits. This is my pulpit, so call me. I'll kick you around the block.
All right. Thank you, Helen.
Bye.
Love y'all.
You too.
Bye.